They thought they won when you didn't respond, didn't argue, didn't react. They mistook your silence for surrender. But what they didn't realize is that the most dangerous person in the room is the one who doesn't need to raise their voice to make a point. There's a moment that changes everything. When you stop trying to explain yourself, stop begging to be understood, and stop reacting to every jab that's thrown your way. That moment is when you reclaim your power. Because the truth is, disrespect doesn't always deserve a reaction. Sometimes it deserves your absence. Sometimes it deserves nothing at all. You see, silence isn't weakness. It's intelligence. It's strategy. It's the calm before a new version of you emerges. And that silence, it's louder than any insult, any betrayal, any cheap attempt to shake your character. They wanted noise. They wanted chaos. But you gave them something far more unsettling. You gave them nothing. Because when someone disrespects you, your first instinct might be to fire back, to defend yourself, to explain, to match their energy. But let me ask you, what does explaining yourself to someone who already decided to disrespect you really solve? What does it heal? What does it change? Nothing. The power is not in proving them wrong. The power is in not needing to prove anything at all. This speech isn't about teaching you how to clap back. It's about teaching you how to rise back, quietly, confidently, and completely unbothered. Because when you learn to stay quiet after disrespect, not out of fear, but out of discipline, you begin to understand something that changes your life. Not everything deserves your energy. Not everyone earns your explanation. And not every insult needs a reply. Let them wonder, let them guess, let your silence echo louder than their words. This is the moment you stop handing over your power and start standing in it. When someone disrespects you, everything inside you wants to respond. Your heart races. Your mind starts calculating the perfect comeback. Your pride urges you to strike back, to defend yourself, to show them they can't treat you that way. But in that very moment when your emotions are high and your blood is hot, that's when you must master the hardest thing of all, silence. Silence is not weakness. It's not surrender. It's not an admission that they were right or that you were wrong. Silence is mastery. Because silence requires something most people never develop, emotional control. It requires the strength to not react simply because someone tried to provoke you. It requires the wisdom to understand that not all battles are worth fighting, and not all people are worth your energy. When you choose silence after disrespect, you're not retreating. You're rising above. You're saying, you don't get to control me. You don't get to pull me into your chaos. You're making it clear that your inner world is not dictated by someone else's immaturity. That level of control is powerful. It's rare, and it's respected even by the very people who tried to shake you. Think about it. Anyone can react. Anyone can scream back, throw words like knives, or type a long emotional message. That's easy. That's emotional laziness disguised as empowerment. But not everyone can remain calm, centered, and quiet when their ego is under attack. That takes discipline. That takes real strength. There's a reason the most dangerous people in the room are usually the quietest. They don't need to prove themselves. They don't feel the need to announce their value, defend their worth, or get loud to be heard. They observe. They wait. And when they act, it's intentional, not impulsive. So when someone disrespects you and you choose silence, you're not being passive. You're being precise. You're refusing to let them dictate the energy. You're refusing to let them drag you down to their level. Your silence says, I know who I am. I don't need your validation. And I don't respond to cheap invitations to chaos. People expect you to react. That's what they want. When they disrespect you, it's often a test, a trap, a way to trigger you so they can feel more powerful. Your silence denies them that. It disrupts the game. It shifts the dynamic. Suddenly, they're left with their own noise and nothing to feed off. And in that void, in that quiet space you leave behind, they're forced to confront the one thing they were trying to avoid all along themselves. You see, silence isn't about avoiding confrontation. It's about elevating above unnecessary confrontation. It's about choosing your peace over your pride. It's about having the emotional maturity to know that your energy is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it, especially not those who try to diminish it. People will notice. They may not say it, but they'll feel it. That you're not easily shaken, that you don't chase validation, that you don't explain yourself to people who aren't listening. That level of self-control is rare. And that's exactly why it commands respect. But here's the key. Silence is not just about not speaking. It's about what you do in that silence. Do you use it to seethe it, to simmer in quiet resentment? Or do you use it to rise, to reflect, to reclaim your power? Real silence, the kind that transforms you, is active, intentional. It says, I am not wasting my breath on things beneath me. I am protecting my peace while you unravel in your own chaos. And let's be honest, the best revenge is never revenge. It's not proving them wrong with words. It's proving them irrelevant through growth. Your silence, when coupled with action, is louder than anything you could have said in the heat of that moment. You walk away, level up, and leave them behind. That's not weakness. That's elegance. That's grace under fire. So the next time someone disrespects you and expects you to break, the next time someone tries to provoke you into a reaction, pause, breathe, choose silence. Let your stillness be unsettling. Let your peace be powerful. Let your quiet confidence remind them that not everyone plays their petty games. Remember, silence is not the absence of a response. It is the response. It's the highest form of self-respect. It says, I don't need to scream to be heard. I don't need to fight to prove my value. I don't need to lower myself to meet you in the chaos. I rise above it. And in that silence, something shifts, not just in them, but in you. You realize that your value isn't up for negotiation, that your peace is too expensive to give away, that your silence is the sound of strength. That's not weakness, that's mastery. And when you learn to sit in that space, unbothered and undisturbed, you become untouchable. There's a certain kind of person who isn't interested in your truth. They're not listening to understand you. They're not trying to see your point of view. They're simply waiting for their turn to twist your words, to diminish your experience, to invalidate your reality. And when you find yourself in the presence of that energy, there's one powerful decision you must make. Stop explaining yourself. Never educate people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Because when someone has already made up their mind about who you are, what you meant, and why you said it, no amount of clarification will shift them. They're not having a conversation in good faith. They're playing a power game. And every time you engage, every time you pour energy into trying to explain, trying to be fair, trying to give them more context, you're feeding a black hole that only gets bigger. Let's be honest, it's exhausting. You try to be the bigger person. You think maybe if you say it a little differently, they'll get it. Maybe if you remain calm, they'll finally hear you. But the truth is, you're not dealing with someone who can't understand you. You're dealing with someone who won't. And that changes everything. You have to know the difference between someone who's curious and someone who's combative. Curiosity leaves space for clarity. It's humble. It's open. But people who are committed to misunderstanding you will twist your kindness into weakness, your honesty into manipulation, and your silence into guilt. They will project their own insecurities onto you and then blame you for it. They will misquote you, mischaracterize you, and then ask you to fix what they broke. That is not your responsibility. There is power in discernment. Power in knowing when to speak and when to walk away. You don't have to set yourself on fire to light the way for someone who refuses to open their eyes. That's not your job. And you have nothing to prove, not to people who deliberately misinterpret your intentions, not to people who filter everything you say through their wounds, their bitterness, or their need to dominate. Because here's the truth. Some people want you to explain yourself just so they can feel more powerful, tearing you down. They bait you. They pretend to ask questions, but their mind is made up. Their judgment is already passed. And every moment you spend defending your truth to someone who doesn't even care about it is a moment you steal from yourself. You deserve better. You deserve conversations where your voice is safe, where understanding is mutual, not transactional, where the energy is equal and respect is non-negotiable. If you're always the one trying to make peace, always the one bridging the gap, always the one giving more than you're receiving, that's not growth. That's self-abandonment. Protect your energy. You're not obligated to teach someone who enjoys being ignorant about who you are. You don't have to debate your values, your truth, or your worth with people who have no interest in respecting them. Sometimes silence is the most intelligent response. Sometimes walking away is the most dignified answer. Not because you're weak, but because you know your value too well to beg someone else to recognize it. You are not put here to be everyone's educator. You are not a repair center for broken perceptions. You're not required to shrink yourself down just so someone else feels big enough to tolerate you. You are not on this earth to be understood by everyone, and that's okay. What you are responsible for is honoring your truth, holding your peace, moving in integrity, speaking when it counts, and choosing silence when it protects your soul. You are responsible for knowing when to invest in connection and when to cut the cord, because there is nothing more soul-draining than explaining your light to someone who is committed to staying in the dark. So stop explaining your value to people who treat it like an inconvenience. Stop educating people who don't want to learn. They just want to argue. Stop giving away your peace in exchange for approval you don't even need. You were not meant to beg for understanding. You were meant to walk in truth. And that truth does not require permission. You don't need everyone to get it. You don't need everyone to like you. What you need is to be grounded in who you are, so deeply, so confidently that when someone misunderstands you, mislabels you, misrepresents you, you don't flinch. You don't spiral. You don't shrink. You just step back, reclaim your time, and move on. Because your energy is sacred. Your truth is not up for debate, and the people who are meant for you, the ones who see you, value you, and respect your mind, they won't need endless explanations. They'll meet you at your level. They'll lean in with curiosity, not contempt. They'll listen to hear, not to reply. And when you find those people, those are the ones you invest in. Until then, protect your peace like it's gold. Because it is. You don't always need to raise your voice, explain your standards, or defend your values to train people how to treat you. The most powerful message you will ever send is how you carry yourself, the way you walk into a room, the way you respond or don't, the way you protect your energy. People learn who you are not just by what you say, but by what you tolerate, what you allow, and what you walk away from. That's your real voice, even when you're silent. You train people how to treat you by what you reinforce. If you stay silent when you're being disrespected, that's reinforcement. If you laugh off things that actually offend you, that's reinforcement. If you continue showing up for people who only call when they need something, you're reinforcing that your time isn't valuable. Every move you make teaches people what's okay and what isn't. So the question becomes, what have you been teaching people? Because people are always watching, not with judgment, but with calculation. They're figuring out your boundaries. They're taking notes on what you'll accept. And the most powerful women, the most respected people, don't shout those boundaries. They embody them. You don't have to explain why something crossed the line. You don't need to defend why you expect respect. You show it in how you remove yourself from environments that don't align with your standards. You don't teach people with lectures. You teach them with your presence, your consistency, your silence, your exit. When you say nothing but choose to walk away from a toxic situation, the message is loud. When you don't clap back at the disrespect, but instead become unreachable, the lesson is sharp. When you stop chasing, stop pleasing, stop proving, that's when people start learning. Because nothing confuses a manipulator more than a person who refuses to engage. When you don't explain, when you don't entertain drama, when you don't play their game, they lose control. That's when the power shifts. And you don't have to say a word. You just have to mean it when you move differently. This is how emotional self-respect works. It's not reactive. It's intentional. It's knowing your value so deeply that you don't even need to explain it to someone who doesn't see it. You train people how to treat you by how quickly you walk away when they don't. But here's the part that takes strength. Sometimes you're going to have to disappoint people. You're going to have to let people feel what they need to feel about your boundaries. And you're going to have to be okay with being misunderstood, even disliked. Because the moment you begin to live from a place of self-respect, you disrupt every dynamic that was built on your silence. So yes, people may call you cold, distant, too much. They'll try to guilt you for changing. They'll try to test your silence with provocation. But don't flinch, because the moment you break your silence to defend your peace, you risk giving your power back to the very people who made you need it in the first place. You're not here to explain why your standards exist. You're here to uphold them. Your energy teaches more than your words ever will, and your consistency, your ability to stand in who you are without over-explaining, is what sets the tone. People can only meet you at the level of access you allow. So if someone's energy feels wrong, adjust the access. If someone keeps crossing a boundary, stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. Start giving them distance. Not everyone deserves to sit at your table. Not everyone has earned the right to hear your truth. And not everyone can handle your peace, because some people thrive off of chaos. And if you're constantly explaining your worth to someone, they're not listening. They're performing control. So stop performing politeness in the face of disrespect. Stop educating people on what basic decency looks like. Start showing them with your absence. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you chose yourself. You don't need to warn people that you're done. You don't need to tell them you're pulling away. Just do it. Move. Quietly. Powerfully. And watch how quickly people realize they misread your silence for softness. Because silence, when rooted in self-respect, is not weakness. It's a boundary. It's clarity. It's a declaration that you are no longer in the business of making people comfortable at your own expense. So train people without training them. Show them without showing off. Make your life, your energy, your peace, the evidence. Let your presence say everything and your distance say even more. Because you don't need a loud voice when your silence is rooted in truth. The most powerful statement you'll ever make is how you choose to be treated, and how you act when someone doesn't rise to meet that standard. Let them feel the loss. Let them feel the shift. Let your evolution speak for itself. And remember, the most powerful language is how you live. Your response should never be a mirror of someone else's behavior. It should be a reflection of your standards. That's the difference between reacting and responding. One is emotional survival, raw, unfiltered, impulsive. The other is power, measured, intentional, grounded. And it's in that difference that you separate yourself from people who don't deserve access to your energy. There will always be moments where disrespect tries to provoke you. You'll encounter people who push buttons just to see how far they can go, who try to dominate conversations, undercut your worth, or throw jabs disguised as jokes. And in those moments, you may feel tempted to match their energy, to snap back, to defend, to prove something. But here's what real power looks like. Choosing your response from a place of self-respect, not ego. Because when you let someone else's behavior dictate your reaction, you've already lost control. You've handed them the remote to your emotional state. And that's not strength. That's instability dressed as passion. It feels satisfying for a second, but it leaves a mess you end up cleaning up later. Your power lives in the pause between action and reaction. And in that pause, you get to decide, who am I going to be right now? You're not here to match disrespect. You're here to model discipline, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve to stay aligned with your values. You deserve to preserve your energy. You deserve to remain unshaken by people who are determined to get a rise out of you. Let them be loud. Let them throw shade. Let them project. That has nothing to do with you. Your job isn't to fix their dysfunction or explain to them why their behavior is unacceptable. Your job is to not participate in it. Respond from your standard, not their trigger. That's emotional maturity. When someone comes at you with chaos, respond with clarity. When someone disrespects you, respond with distance. When someone misunderstands your silence for weakness, respond by holding your boundary even tighter. Because you're not here to convince anyone to treat you right. You're here to treat yourself right. and let that set the bar for everyone else. Standards are not just about what you expect from people, they're about what you refuse to tolerate. And your reaction in hard moments reveals whether those standards are theory or practice. It's easy to talk about boundaries when life is calm, but when someone crosses a line, when someone tests your peace, that's when you find out if your standards are real. If your standard is respect, then why would you argue with someone who has no interest in giving it? If your standard is peace, why would you let someone drag you into a storm? They create it. If your standard is self-worth, why would you let anyone shrink you just to make themselves feel taller? Stop matching energy. Start maintaining your frequency. You weren't built to survive other people's storms. You were built to rise above them. Not in arrogance, in alignment. Your silence can speak louder than any comeback. Your calm can say more than any raised voice. Your refusal to engage can teach someone everything they need to know about how you move and what you won't accept. It's not about being passive, it's about being selective. You don't owe everyone access to your reaction. You don't need to validate ignorance with your attention. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away with your integrity intact. When you respond from your standards, you stay in your power. You stop playing small games with people who live for conflict. You stop watering yourself down to make others comfortable. You stop explaining your worth to people, committed to misunderstanding it. And here's the truth, not everyone will get it. Some people will call you cold, unbothered, distant. But that's only because they're used to the version of you who over-explained, overreacted, overgave. They're uncomfortable with the evolved you, the version who doesn't flinch, doesn't beg, doesn't explain. Let them be uncomfortable. You're not shrinking anymore. You are no longer performing for approval. You're no longer reacting to gain control. You are responding to protect peace. You're responding to honor growth. You're responding from a higher place, not because they deserve grace, but because you do. You don't need to win the moment. You don't need to be right in their eyes. You don't even need closure from them. You need clarity from yourself. What do I allow? Who do I become in moments of pressure? Because that's the true measure of power, not how you act when everyone's watching, but how you hold yourself when everything tries to break you. That's what separates the grounded from the reactive. That's what trains people how to treat you. That's how standards become reality. So the next time someone tries to drag you into drama, remember this: they are not in control. You are. Their behavior may be loud, their tactics may be manipulative, but your response, that's your signature. That's your message to the world about who you are and what you'll never allow again. Choose wisely, respond with power, respond with peace, respond with you. The loudest revenge is not a scream, not a slammed door, not a perfectly worded clapback. It's your absence. It's your silence. It's your refusal to keep showing up for people who took you for granted. There is a kind of power in walking away that no argument can match. When you remove yourself, your energy, your presence, your kindness, your loyalty from a space that never valued it, you send the clearest message possible. I am done. There's something unshakably powerful about choosing to be unavailable. No need for final words. No need to explain yourself one last time. When someone disrespects you, disregards your worth, plays with your heart, or underestimates who you are, your exit says everything. Your absence becomes the consequence. See, people get comfortable with access. They get used to you always being there, picking up, giving chances, forgiving fast, explaining yourself, pouring into them, even when they bring nothing to the table. And the more consistent you are with your presence, the more invisible your value becomes to them. Not because you lack worth, but because they never had the depth to appreciate it in the first place. When you stay in spaces where you're not seen, you start shrinking. You start questioning if your needs are too much, if your standards are too high, if your voice matters at all. You start accepting crumbs while pretending it's a feast. But deep down, you feel the ache, the slow erosion of your dignity. That's when it becomes clear. It's not about teaching them anymore. It's about choosing you. Walking away is not weakness. It's not bitterness. It's wisdom. It's clarity. It's finally realizing that peace is more valuable than being understood, that your energy is too precious to keep spending in places that only drain it, that your presence is a gift and not everyone is meant to unwrap it. And yes, it will confuse them. The moment you stop chasing, stop explaining, stop reacting, they will notice the silence will scream because they expected noise. They expected you to argue, to beg, to defend. They were counting on your need to be heard. But now, you're gone. And in that space you leave behind, they are forced to sit with their own behavior. Your absence holds up a mirror they can't look away from. And while they sit with their regret, you rise in your silence. You heal, you grow. You flourish in rooms where your name is spoken with respect. You attract people who see you without needing reminders. You build a life where you no longer have to shrink just to be tolerated. The loudest revenge isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right, proving that you are capable of walking away from what hurts, that you are powerful enough to choose peace over chaos, that you can honor your standards even when it's hard. Because here's the truth, most people don't change because of confrontation. They change when they lose access. They change when the silence gets loud enough to echo. They change when they realize you're not waiting around for them to wake up. And by then, you're already gone. Let them feel your absence. Let them miss what they dismissed. Let them reach for what they once ignored. And while they're doing that, don't look back. Not to check if they've learned, not to see if they've changed, but to remind yourself how far you've come. Your growth doesn't live in their guilt. Your healing doesn't need their validation. You owe them nothing. Not a second chance, not a conversation, not closure. You are the closure. Your exit is your final statement. Your absence is your boundary in action. Your silence is your power reclaimed. So stay quiet, stay gone, and build louder. Shine louder. Love yourself louder. The life you create in your absence will speak volumes. It'll echo in every space that once took you for granted. And the most beautiful part, you won't need revenge, because your peace will be the proof. Let me say this clearly, because you need to carry it with you every time someone dares to question your worth. You do not need to scream to be powerful. You do not need to beg to be respected. You do not need to perform for love, explain your standards, or justify why you walked away. The moment you choose your peace over their chaos, your silence becomes a thunderclap. And trust me, those who tried to break you will hear it. When you stop showing up where you were disrespected, something incredible happens. You reclaim your time, your energy, your dignity, and that's when your real life begins. The life that isn't built around being accepted, but around being aligned with your values, with your strength, with your worth. So stay quiet, not because you have nothing to say, but because you finally realize it's not your job to say it to everyone. Especially not to those who chose to misunderstand you. Especially not to those who never deserved access in the first place. Let your peace be the revenge. Let your absence be the lesson. Let your future be the flex. Because a woman who walks away without turning back, A is a woman no one forgets.